Story 1: The Hitchhiker's Revenge. My name is Jake, and I'm a long-haul truck driver. Last year, I was driving a route through the remote highways of Nevada. The night was dark and still, with only the hum of my truck's engine breaking the silence. I was about 2 hours from my destination, and the desert stretched endlessly on either side. Around midnight, I pulled over at a rest stop to stretch my legs. The place was deserted, just a few dim lights and a vending machine that looked like it hadn't been used in years. I got out, took a deep breath of the cool night air, and walked around to check my truck. That's when I saw him, a hitchhiker standing at the edge of the rest stop, partially illuminated by the flickering lights. He was tall, with wild hair and eyes that seemed too bright in the darkness. He waved at me, but something about him set off alarm bells in my head. I decided to get back in my truck and drive off, leaving him behind. As I started my truck and pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The hitchhiker was gone. I shrugged it off, assuming he had wandered off into the desert. I continued driving, trying to shake off the eerie feeling that had settled over me. An hour later, my truck began to sputter. I cursed under my breath, knowing I had recently filled up the tank and done all the necessary maintenance. I pulled over to the side of the road, the engine finally dying. I grabbed a flashlight and got out, intending to check under the hood. As I walked around the truck, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned the flashlight towards the back of the truck and froze. The hitchhiker was clinging to the undercarriage, his eyes wide and manic. "What the hell?" I shouted, stepping back. He dropped to the ground and stood up, brushing off dirt and debris. He started walking towards me, a twisted smile on his face. I backed away, but there was nowhere to go, just empty desert all around. "You left me back there," he said, his voice eerily calm. "That wasn't very nice." I didn't mean to," I stammered, fumbling for my phone. "It was dead, of course." He lunged at me, and I turned to run, but he was fast. He tackled me to the ground, and I felt a sharp pain in my side. I fought back, kicking and punching, but he was relentless. His strength was inhuman, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. I managed to break free and ran towards the truck, but he grabbed my leg, pulling me down. I screamed, trying to kick him off, but he held tight. Desperation gave me a surge of strength, and I kicked him square in the face. He howled in pain, releasing me, and I scrambled to my feet. I made it to the truck and locked myself inside, my hands shaking. I could see him outside, pacing back and forth, his face twisted in rage. I started the engine, praying it would turn over, and to my relief, it roared to life. I floored the gas pedal, speeding away from the hitchhiker. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him standing in the middle of the road, watching me with those glowing eyes. I didn't stop until I reached a small town, where I finally called the police. They took my report but found no trace of the hitchhiker. They told me it was probably a drifter, but I knew better. There was something supernatural about him, something evil. I still drive those lonely highways, but I'm always on edge, constantly checking my mirrors, fearing that one night I'll see those glowing eyes again. The memory of that night haunts me, a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the most unexpected places. Story 2: The Phantom Passenger. My name is Lisa, and I've been a truck driver for nearly a decade. Last summer, I had an experience that still gives me nightmares. I was driving through the Appalachian Mountains, a route I had taken many times before. It was late at night, and the winding mountain roads were deserted. I was listening to a podcast to keep myself awake when I heard a strange noise from the back of my truck. It sounded like something scratching at the metal. I glanced in the side mirror but saw nothing unusual. Figuring it was just an animal, I kept driving. A few minutes later, the noise grew louder, more insistent. I pulled over to the side of the road, the engine idling. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the cool mountain air. The forest was thick and dark, the only light coming from my truck's headlights. I walked around to the back of the truck, shining the flashlight along the sides. The scratching noise had stopped, and everything seemed normal. I was about to get back in the cab when I heard a low growl. I turned the flashlight towards the sound and froze. There, clinging to the back of my truck, was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. It was humanoid but twisted and deformed, with long, clawed fingers and glowing red eyes. It hissed at me, its mouth full of sharp teeth. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. The creature leaped off the truck and landed on the ground with a thud. It started moving towards me, its movements jerky and unnatural. I turned and ran, my flashlight bobbing wildly. I could hear the creature behind me, its growls growing louder. I reached the cab and scrambled inside, slamming the door shut and locking it. I could see the creature through the window, its red eyes fixed on me. I started the truck and floored the gas pedal, the tires spinning on the gravel before catching traction. I sped down the mountain road, my eyes darting between the road and the rearview mirror. The creature was gone, but the fear lingered. I drove until I reached a small town, where I pulled into a brightly lit gas station. I sat there for a long time, trying to calm my racing heart. I knew what I had seen was real, but who would believe me? I didn't even believe it myself. I continued my route, but the memory of that night stayed with me. I told a few fellow truckers about it, and to my surprise, some of them had similar stories. Creatures, ghosts, and other strange things seen on lonely highways. Now, I always check my truck thoroughly before and after every stop. The fear of encountering that creature again is always in the back of my mind, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows of the night.